So I work for the city of Waco, and some co-workers told me about they saw a lawnmower sitting in front of a house I might be interested in. So it took me, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks before I was driving by that area and I seen it, and I immediately stopped, went up, knocked on the door. The guy answered, and I asked him, said, "Is that Sears for sale?" And he looked at me and said, "That's not Sears, that's a Roper." And I'm okay, it looks like a Sears to me, but I won't argue. I said, "You want to sell it?" And he said, "Well, how much do you give me for it?" I had $200 on me at the time, and I said, "Well, I got $200 I can pay for it right now." And he agreed. So this is what it looked like, and you can see it was City of Waco right there. So the next day I went and rented a U-Haul trailer. Actually came from Virginia, and I went and picked this up. And then when I went and got it, he opened the garage door and started pulling stuff out, and he pulled out the chains, all the manuals, the brochure, and then he drug that snowblower out and said, "Well, if you want this, you can have it, otherwise I'm taking it to the dump." And I said, "Yep, let's load it up." All right, so before I get started on this, let's do a walk around on it. So it's still in really good shape. Of course, hasn't gone anywhere. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So doing a little bit of research, and what I came up with, I originally purchased it 2014 for $200, and I was going through some of the manuals and some of the information I have, and I got the original brochure with it, and in the back of the brochure it lists some of the attachments. Plow, middle buster, disc harrow, drag harrow. I do have the snow thrower, rear grader blade, that would be nice. Self-powered rototiller, I have one, but it's not a Roper, it's a Craftsman, but I don't have a hitch. So that's what I was looking at in here, and there's two types. There's a manual tri-hitch, and then there's the Electrolift. And I searched to see if any of this was available, and I can't find it. I'm pretty sure the Sears model would work also. I do have the tire chains. Interestingly enough, that's what it's going to look like with the new tires. But there is one attachment that I did not see listed here, but on Tractor Data they list a front end loader, and the loader is a Roper LRO-100-73. I searched for that and I could not find that, but it gives all the specs on it in Tractor Data. So I came up with a 2-inch receiver I bought off a Heavy Hitch, and then I just basically some hardware store hardware to mount that to where it's nice and stable. And I also wired in a trailer plug. So what I use that hitch for, so when I go to the tractor show, I take this carrier with me, and I basically slide it into the hitch, and I can put my cooler and whatnot on that and just have it all in one place. And the other thing is I can put the receiver on, and I can tow this trailer around and actually hook up to where I get the marker lights going. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know how useful it would be, but I did take it to a parade once, a winter parade, and had it all lit up. So moving back here again, this used to have a single round tail light. Now I could find the round ones, but not the LED ones. So this is a LED tail light. The other thing to note here is on this seat, it is adjustable, but it's got this single big spring, and I have to admit this thing is way more comfortable to ride than my Craftsman's has the two small springs. Are going to drain the gas tank. This decal I made while I was at work on a laser printer and the paper. Couple modifications here. It did have an hour meter, which was all faded and couldn't read it, so I replaced it with a voltmeter. And down here I added a switch to the parking brake lever, so I always had trouble remembering if the parking brake was on, because this thing will move with the brakes engaged and you don't realize it. And I put a couple indicators up here, one for the park brake, and we'll talk about the other one here in a minute. Pretty much everything on the engine is original, except I added an oil gauge to it, which works really fine. A couple things up here, you'll notice I've relocated the solenoid up here to the firewall, which was no easy task, but the reason I did that is it used to be down here behind this and you could not get to it. And when I first rebuilt this thing, I had the starter rebuilt at a starter shop, and when I cranked it up, the solenoid stuck, and the only way to get that solenoid unstuck was to unhook the battery, which obviously took a little bit. But I added a second indicator to indicate when there was power going to the starter, and that indicator is right off the back of the starter. So anytime there's power applied to the starter, I get a light. So that eliminates me from having to realize the solenoid's stuck, and if it does stick, it's up here where I can beat on it. So them's the only one other small modification. I added a little kill switch here, basically disconnects the coil back there from the points. So two things for that. One, I can turn this off, turn the key on, and run the lights, we'll talk about in a minute, without worrying about burning the coil or the points out. And the second thing is, if I take it to the tractor show, I can flip that off, and it's sort of a anti-theft device. Now y'all know how to start it. I added LED lights up here because it had the standard bulbs, and my goal was to reduce the drain on the voltage regulator, which I did have trouble with. I had to put a new one on it. Custom exhaust, $300 at a local fabrication shop. Does really good. So I do have new tires we're going to be putting on there and refreshing those rims. You can see they're pretty dirty on the inside. Oh, one other thing. So on this side, these are the battery tie downs, which we're going to put the battery in here a little while. Custom muffler, I'm on the fence about pulling this off. I do believe I have new gaskets, but I was thinking about repainting this. So yeah, notice I've got a little bit of rust on this pulley here, and that's from where I actually ran the snow blower one winter. The oil, I believe, has about 10 hours on it. See, yeah, and it's yeah, we're not going to do anything with the oil. Oil and filter are good. So on this side, I did have to work on this clutch bracket assembly here. We got a good belt on it. Pretty much everything on this side's original. So yeah, that's pretty much my overall. I'm pretty sure it's going to look a lot better once I get in there and detail it, clean it up good. Okay, so I mentioned this stuff here. This is the mule drive for the deck. Now this can't be on when the snowblower's on it. And honestly, the snowblower gets more attention at the tractor show than the mower deck would. But I put the mower deck on just to increase the size, and they can see. The other thing I'm thinking about doing is this part right here has to be removed so the snowblower belt can come through. But I've got the belt removed from the pulley, so it's down here on the oil drain. So I'm thinking, just to bring the looks up a little bit more, putting that part back on. Two reasons. I think it's going to make it look better, and obviously not functional, but it'll keep me from losing some of the hardware. Honestly, I have to go back and remember what these two bars and those springs were for. I'm pretty sure they had to do with the deck somehow, or this thing. I have to go back and look, but I can't remember what those went to. But I'm pretty sure they were part of this somehow. But yeah, that's all going to get cleaned up too, and I guess stored somewhere. But that's how it's going to be at the show. So obviously we're putting those tires on the back. These, I believe, will straight up fit my Craftsman Pro. No problems there. That's just going to be a spare set of tires. These will come off, but I don't have rims for them. I did come up with the shiny bolts for putting those rims back on. So tires are getting changed out. We're going to detail it, armor all it, get it cleaned up really good. Like I said, I'm on the fence about pulling the muffler and getting some high temp paint and repainting it. We're gonna put the new battery in it. We're gonna drain the fuel, put a new fuel filter on it, detail it, see if I can get her to crank up, and that's pretty much it. Not the tires is the big ticket item. So yeah, that's my plan. Thanks for watching.